The term Sanatan Dharma is often associated with a particular sect or religion, but we rarely take the time to comprehend its true meaning. While dharma is commonly interpreted as duty, religion, or religious duty, its meaning goes beyond these concise English translations. The root of the Sanskrit word dharma is dri, which means to sustain, and it also implies that which is essential and fundamental to something. Sanatan means eternal, and the phrase Sanatan Dharma refers to what is perpetually integral to a living entity. It is timeless, not confined by any boundaries, and not limited to any particular sect. Unlike faith, which can change, Sanatan Dharma, commonly referred to as Hinduism today, is unchangeable and eternal. Sanatan Dharma refers to the eternal nature or characteristics, svabhava, of an entity. Every entity is created with an original fundamental nature that accompanies it throughout its existence. However, due to various circumstances, an entity may acquire a changed or acquired nature known as Naimitika Dharma over time, which becomes firmly established and coexists with its original eternal nature, also known as Sanatan Dharma. It's important to note that the acquired nature should not be mistaken as the original nature of the entity. For instance, water is an entity, and its eternal nature is liquidity. But when water freezes into solid ice, its liquidity is no longer apparent, and instead, the solidity of ice becomes its acquired characteristics. Nevertheless, the acquired nature is never permanent and arises due to temporary circumstances. As soon as the circumstance changes, the entity regains its original nature. In our example, the solid ice changes back into liquid water once the freezing conditions are eliminated. In the case of living entities, the term living being refers to all spirit souls that are embodied in different species of life. Dharma is a characteristic of the soul that remains independent of the type of body in which it resides. The original nature or Sanatan Dharma of the soul is eternal and prevails, even if the soul acquires a modified nature, Naimitika Dharma. Although the original nature may lie dormant for some time, it will manifest itself openly when the conditions are favorable. Religion typically implies faith, which may vary from one person to another. However, Sanatan Dharma stands apart in that it is immutable and cannot be altered. For example, just as water cannot lose its liquidity and fire cannot lose its heat, the Sanatan Dharma of a living entity is unalterable. It is an inherent characteristic that remains constant regardless of external circumstances. Unlike faith, which may vary depending on personal beliefs or cultural influences, Sanatan Dharma is not subject to alteration or manipulation. It is an integral aspect of an entity's existence and cannot be separated from its identity. This unchanging quality of Sanatan Dharma is what makes it a universal concept that can be applied to all living beings, regardless of their religious affiliation or cultural background. According to Sanatan Dharma, the eternal nature of living beings, including humans, is to perform service or seva. This is a universal law that is beyond our belief systems. When we observe the world closely, we can see that every individual is engaged in serving others in some way or the other. A father serves his son, a son serves his father, a wife serves her husband, a doctor serves his patients, and a king serves his subjects. Even those who have no one to serve keep pets and take care of them. This is because the soul is inherently a servant, and serving is a natural trait of the soul, as stated by Sanatan Dharma. Therefore, all of us are bound to serve in one way or another. The Vedic scriptures, which are the oldest in the world, provide insight on this subject and conclude that man achieves perfection only when he serves the Supreme Lord. This service attitude is built on a foundation of loving relationship and is not based on obligation. The purpose of our existence is to render loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, recognizing Him as our eternal object of love. Humans are the most conscious of all species and are perfectly equipped to attain complete spiritual realization. Faith in God is universal and natural for people in general, including even uncivilized tribes who worship nature. Living beings, including humans, are spirit souls that are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. The soul is eternal and goes through a process of transmigration from one body to the next in a quest for perfection. The soul attains perfection when it rekindles its lost relationship with the Supreme. The process of yoga is often misconceived as a mere set of physical exercises. However, it is a gradual and transformative process of connecting the soul with the Supersoul, ultimately leading to the perfection of one's existence. Sri Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that the highest form of yoga is achieved by one who has unwavering faith in the Supreme Lord and constantly meditates on Him within their own heart, while offering loving and transcendental service. Sri Krishna proclaims that such a devotee is the most intimately united with Him in yoga and the highest of all yogis. It must be noted at this point that pure love for God is already eternally established in the hearts of all living entities. It is not something to be gained from an external source. When one's heart is purified and cleansed by the regular hearing and chanting of the Lord's holy names, pastimes and glories, this love naturally awakens. Is Sanatan Dharma sectarian? Well, the Sunday may be called upon by different names but remains one no matter how widely we travel. Similarly, God is one though He might be called upon differently by different people. Likewise, the laws of physics or mathematics are universal, although students might study them in various universities. Similarly, though one might accept a particular authorized religious tradition, the ultimate goal to render devotional service unto the Supreme prevails. Those belonging to some sectarian faith will wrongly consider that Sanatan Dharma is also sectarian, but if we go deeper into the matter and consider it in the light of modern science, we shall discover that Sanatan Dharma is the affair of all the people of the world, nay, of all the living entities of the universe.